Dentro desta celebração, nós convidamos alguém que vai falar agora nessa comemoração, não através de uma mensagem gravada, mas ele vai falar ao vivo e trazer uma curta mensagem de reflexão bíblica nessa tarde, comemorando os 120 anos da CPB. E nós convidamos o pastor Ted Wilson, que é o presidente da Igreja Adventista do Sétimo Dia, para todo mundo. Ele foi o diretor da nossa Casa Publicadora nos Estados Unidos. Ele ama as publicações. Ele já esteve na CPB participando do Impacto Esperança. Ele pergunta muito da Casa Publicadora, ele conhece parte da história, ele participou de inaugurações aqui. Portanto, a história da CPB faz parte do coração do líder da Igreja Adventista em todo o mundo. E é por isso que eu quero convidar agora todos vocês a que ouçam com carinho uma mensagem em nome da Igreja Adventista em toda esta terra. Muito obrigado, pastor Ted Wilson, e agora os minutos são seus.
Muito obrigado, pastor Elton Kohler e pastor Lima. E boa tarde, amigos. What a privilege to join you virtually from my home, not far from General Conference headquarters. We are celebrating 120 years of the Brazilian publishing house. You know, it sounds better in Portuguese. Casa, Publicadora, Brasileira. It sounds better. Because of the current pandemic, we're handling these celebrations a little bit differently, but I'm still so thankful to God for his blessings on the church through the publishing house. God has sustained the publishing house and the South American division for more than a century, more than 100 years. This great work that you are a part of began with a shipment of German literature. It was called the Herald of Truth, and it was sent to Itajaí, Santa Catarina. As families began studying these pamphlets along with the Holy Bible, they chose to keep the Bible Sabbaths. And 2 literature evangelists, missionaries, were sent to Brazil to support this growing work. 1 year later, Guilherme Stein Jr. was baptized. He was the first Adventist convert on Brazilian soil. Brother Stein threw himself into the work, preaching and teaching. 5 years later, in 1900, this young convert to the faith became the first editor of the publishing house. And I'm reminded of that interesting special song that was just played. We saw it, where they were using the typewriter and the orchestra in the past. This was the publishing, this is the editorial group representing so many editors. Now, the first publication that they made was O Arauto de Verdade, the Herald of Truth, a wonderful way of sharing God's word. Other publications and books followed as the work began to grow. Now, the publishing house moved to different locations, and in keeping with the times, the techniques of printing changed over time. I mean, visiting Casa Publicadora Brasileira today, you would see amazing difference from the past. So printing and distribution methods have continued to develop as society changes, but the message has not changed. The message of Jesus soon coming, the message of Christ's righteousness, the 3 angels' messages of Revelation 14, and the 4th angel of Revelation 18, which the spirit of prophecy tells us is greatly represented by the publishing houses and the publishing work. Now, the mission of your institution is reflected in the first book it published. It was called The Glorious Coming of Christ. And that's our first great hope right now. Casa Publicadora Brasileira exists today to prepare others to be ready for that wonderful day when Jesus comes. And in the accomplishment of this work, our publishing houses are among the most effective agencies. So you see, Casa Publicadora Brasileira has grown to be one of the flagship publishing houses of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, a leader. And this has all been impacting the entire South American division and beyond through faithful workers just like you. 20 years ago, it was a privilege to be at Tatuí to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Brazil Publishing House. In many ways, so much has changed since then. I mean, who would have imagined what we would be facing in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic? But we know that this is just a sign of Jesus soon coming. It's a wake-up call for all of us. Focus on the really critical things that God would have his people share with the world. By God's grace, let's look forward to celebrating the next event, the next landmark for Casa Publicadora in heaven, where at last we will meet the many, many people who are there thanks to the dedication of you and of God working through the publishing work. May God bless each one of you as you move forward towards that climax in Earth's history. Jesus breve voltará.
Obrigado, pastor Ted Wilson, pelas palavras, também pelo tempo. Isso mostra o carinho que o senhor tem como líder da igreja e como a igreja em todo o mundo também tem pela Casa Publicadora Brasileira.